Okay, welcome back to another video on playing old school D&D solo and kind of writing, developing solo rules as we go along. I think in the last video I was talking about, in fact, before we get into that, the last few videos, I feel like my mic volume's been a little bit quiet, a bit on the quiet side. So I've tried to pump it up a little bit with a bit of compression and some gain. So hopefully it'll be much better. I'm still kind of ironing things out. I know that it can be a struggle for some people to maybe see the information on my Google Docs, so I'll try and zoom in a little bit and see. I think that looks much better. So hopefully that extra 50% zoom will make a big difference. I'm just drinking a cup of tea, so you'll have to excuse me slurping away. So, in the last session, I was going over things in regards to treasure distribution, and I was kind of developing some extra rules around that to handle that in solo play. So where I am at the moment, so my party of adventurers, I'm taking this party of adventurers solo through the module B1 in Search of the Unknown, which is an old basic BECMI D&D module. I've been over this in previous videos, but just thought I'd quickly just go through it again for, in case you're joining me at this point and you've not got the context of the previous videos. So anyway, my party came across orcs who appeared as part of a wandering monster check. There were 3 orcs, 2 of them were killed, 1 of them fled. They had a cart with a big treasure hoard in it, and they had 4 slaves. One of the slaves turned out to be the cousin of the magic user in the party, so a bit of a complicated situation. The slaves, after the party freed them from their bonds, said that they would happily help the party carry the spoils out of the stronghold in exchange for their lives and a share of what they felt was owed to them, which they kind of did a negotiation at this point, and 30 gold pieces was the agreed share that the slaves would get of the gold. So the share was agreed between the 2 groups, and there are obviously all kinds of questions that were raised at this point, such as establishing the nature of why these prisoners were there, how they found themselves as captives, but time, of course, in a dungeon setting is very precious, so you have to cover the important matters first and try and keep moving. And in the spirit of old school D&D, the most important thing to any character that finds themselves in a cavernous stronghold is going to be treasure. So they negotiated the shares of the treasure. The treasure hoard had a total weight of 1,697 CN, and CN is the measurement used in BECMI, and it's based on a coin, namely a 1 gold piece. So 1,697 CN is the same as 1,697 coins. The overall value of the hoard was actually, in fact, I valued it at 70 gold pieces, but I'm just going to open my encounter tracker. So I have all these Google Docs that help me basically adjudicate everything that happens in my solo game. So this here is all the treasure that was found, and I worked out the totals at the bottom, but I made a mistake when I first calculated it. There isn't 70 gold pieces worth of treasure. The total is it has a value of 40 gold pieces in total. So giving a share of 30 gold pieces away is a bit kind of, the party have sold themselves short here, really, agreeing before they had fully established how much the treasure was worth, because I guess you could say, you know, in game world terms, that the party miscalculated the amount of treasure, the value of the treasure, which I can imagine is easily done in an environment that is as hostile as a dungeon, and you've got to make a educated guess as to how much all this stuff is worth, because it's not all coins, it's all kinds of things. So I'm just gonna update my adventure journal, and I'd say value is only estimated. Trying to type when I've got a mic in my face is actually quite difficult to do. I've placed my mic right in front of my face. But the overall value is only estimated at around 40 gold pieces, and this is further reduced to around 10 gold pieces by the cut of the slaves. The party is more motivated to find something of higher value than to leave the stronghold. So yeah, this is something that I was discussing in the last video. What are the party going to do? What decision are they going to make? Are they going to take the treasure and leave, or are they going to keep going? And the way that I figured this out, let me just get my, here we go, my solo rulebook, which is a completely built from the ground up by myself. So what am I looking at? Combat. Here we go. So these are the rules that I've come up with since the last session. So basically this table is all about how likely are the party, after they come across a big wad of treasure that is going to encumber them if they take it all, how likely are they to take it all and leave the dungeon to survive another day? So these are the rules that I came up with. If the total amount of treasure found will encumber the characters, then a decision needs to be made as to whether they will retrieve all of the treasure and leave the dungeon, or take some of the treasure and continue exploring to find something of higher value. The following guidelines can help you make this decision. This decision will also be affected by other factors, such as the current health of the party, what resources they have left, and so on. And there may be other factors that I'll pick up, because, you know, what I do with these rules, I'll make something that will help me handle the situation at hand, and then I'll end up coming back to it in a slightly different context and think, oh, these rules will work perfectly for this, and then I'll maybe sort of iterate over them and they'll change. So this whole thing kind of develops in like an organic, emergent kind of way. That's how I like to approach rule design in solo D&D. And you'll probably notice that the style of play that I have, if you've been watching these videos so far, is It's very much in the vein of the way that you would referee a very early D&D game when it was just kind of evolving out of the wargaming community. And that is that the referee, the main purpose of a referee is kind of just to make rulings and adjudicate and make, decisions on the spur of the moment and come up with on the spot rules that are implemented in a more modular fashion. And that's kind of how I approach solo D&D. So, I'm kind of playing it mostly from the perspective of a referee, making rulings as they go along based on logic and random chance. And that in turn generates what happens in the game world, if that makes sense. So I came up with this table to see if the party would take the treasure and run out of the dungeon or keep going. And this is based on, so you have a party level. So each party has a level, and that level is the average level across all the characters. So you add up each character's level and divide the total by the amount of characters in the party. And that will give you your party level. And then once you've got that, you need to know the base percent chance that the party will leave the dungeon. So this is like the base percentage that will be, you'll roll a percentile die and you need to get under that percentage. And the way that you do that is you would take the amount of treasure found, which in our case was 40 gold pieces, and you divide that by 2,000 and then multiply that by 100. And the way this works is 2,000 is kind of the amount that a single character, mainly a fighter, would need to gain second level from first level. So we'd use that as a basis. And the nearer the treasure is to that amount, the more likely the characters, the party will take that and then go out, rest up, level up, and buy better supplies and then come back. Obviously, if you've got nowhere near that, the percentage will be very low. So that's what this calculation here is for. In fact, I forgot to zoom in here, so I'm going to do that now. I'll try and keep zoomed in on everything. I'll just try and keep this as the kind of default. So hopefully you can see that a lot better now. So you would also then, this percentage chance would increase depending on how wounded the characters are. So I sort of came up with a percent per point of damage taken. So you look at how many hit points have been taken, and that will gain a 1% bonus for each hit point on the percentage chance here. And also, if you've got less than 3 hours of light left in torches, that will give you a 25% chance increase on your chance to leave the dungeon. And then if you fall below a movement rate of 60 feet, that's another 25% chance. So you get the idea. So my party had a pretty low percentage chance here of leaving. They haven't taken any damage. They have more than 3 hours of light, and their movement rate is would be under 60 feet if they took all the treasure, but because they're giving some to the slaves, that's not going to be the case. So, you don't have to, you wouldn't, if you were using these rules, you wouldn't have to roll on this, but it gives you a good basis. And if you do need to make a ruling, rather than sit there and kind of calculate what you want to do, if you're not sure and you want to keep the game moving, you can just use this chart. So, yeah, I did that, and the party, the result was the party were more motivated to keep going and find something of higher value than to leave the stronghold. And another thing that I did, I'll just open another document here, my adventure sheet. I came up with rules here for how much carrying capacity the party have, and they have got 1,600. I'll get to this figure in a minute, but that's the share of the treasure. That's how much it weighs. In fact, I don't need to get there in a minute because I've just told you. So that's how much treasure they're going to pick up, and that's how much bag space they have at the upper limit. And then I've got the different levels of encumbrance that correspond with the different movement rates, and they're currently on level 2, which gives them a 90 feet per turn movement speed, and that's their total encumbrance versus how much they can go up to. So this encumbrance is all the whole party kind of added together. So I'm just looking at it on a party level. I think that's an easier way of doing it, rather than looking at each individual character. So, so the party can carry, that's how much they can carry of the treasure hoard without reducing their movement rate. This will at least lighten the burden on the slaves, leaving just 76 CN for the slaves to carry. So that's quite nice of them. As the party wants to continue with their expedition, they will make a counter offer to the slaves. Ferris is not quite happy with the decision. So I did a bit of a role play here, and I looked at Ferris's alignment. So Ferris is lawful, and the rest of the characters are neutral. So as a lawful character with a vow to help the common people, she was a little uncomfortable. But obviously she was outnumbered by the neutrality of the party, who are more likely to help others only when it helps themselves. She struggles to convince the others, so she's trying to convince the party that they should escort the slaves to safety, but the party want to continue and the slaves do not want to come with them. So yeah, but her belief of group before individual gives her a logic, because basically as a lawful character she would put the group before her individual needs. So that will give her the logic to agree to this present plan and to continue exploring the stronghold. So yeah, that's basically what happened. They had like a debate over what they were going to do because they didn't want to leave with the treasure. And I think it's important in these things to look at alignments and get a feel for what the different alignments entail. So, because a lawful character should not act out of their alignment, then neutral ones the same. All alignments, they should always behave in line with their alignment. So, and sometimes those boundaries do get complicated, but you have to have a reasonably logic argument as to why a character is going to agree or disagree with something. So the party put their counter offer to the prisoners. So they basically wanted to say to the prisoners, we're not leaving, but you can have your vertical pieces if you come with us. And I ruled that there was a 20% chance that they would enter into the service of the parties, come with them for this 30 gold pieces. And I rolled a percentile die and failed. So this 20%, the logic here is based on... so I'm going to get into NPC interaction here and just kind of show you how this works. Where am I? I think I spend more time trying to find my way around this book than I do doing anything else. So here we go. We're doing a negotiation here. And these are some rules I have around that. If it is unknown who starts a conversation, then there is a 2d6 chance an NPC will start it. Use the following roleplay tables to generate their part in the conversation, and use the character dialogue during NPC interaction table, which is up here somewhere, to generate the character's part of the conversation. So basically, yeah, we were trying to, let me think. Actually, no, here we go. So these are rules that are part of. So all this section of the book is rules on kind of character role playing and NPC interaction. And I have some rules for luring NPCs into service. To lure any number of NPCs into service, an offer of service must be made equal to the gold coin column of the inlay treasure value multiplied by 10 for the character type. See table below for examples. If a lower offer is to be made, then see the insufficient funds and haggling section below.
Tom, here is your.
I should really put my Alexa on silent when I record these videos. So basically, what you have here is these slaves are human. So the offer required will be 2d6 per NPC times 10. So I rolled that. And I can't remember what the figure was, but it was a lot higher than this 30 gold pieces that have been offered. So I went into the insufficient funds and haggling section. If sufficient funds are not available or some haggling is to be carried out, then there is a risk of the offer being rejected as follows. Roll for the offer required on the table above and then determine the percentage of funds being offered. So funds offered was 30 gold pieces. You divide that by the offer required, which was the much higher amount I rolled here. And then you multiply that by 100, and this will give you the percentage chance that the offer will not be immediately rejected. And I'll just give you a quick example. If 90% of the funds are available, then there is a 90% chance the NPC will not immediately reject the offer. And a further 5% can be added per bonus point of charisma, but should be equally subtracted for penalties. So that's what I did. And my calculation was that they only had a 20% chance of convincing the prisoners to enter into their service with this share of 30 gold pieces. And of course, the prisoners were not willing to give up their chance for immediate escape. So the party made a second offer. They went up to 35 gold pieces. And they had a 21% chance this time, which was based on these rules again. If the offer is rejected, then a new offer can be made, but the offer must be at least 10% higher than the previous offer, and then you've got to use this calculation to work out the percentage chance again. And only 3 attempts to haggle can be made before either the original price is agreed or the NPC leaves or attacks, depending on their level of hostility towards the player characters, which these slaves are not at risk of attacking the players. But because, each round that you negotiate in time is passing, and that means possibly wandering monsters, I ruled that each attempt to haggle will take 2d6 rounds. So I'm updating the turns and rounds in here for each time. So the second offer was also rejected. The haggling continued. And at this point, Ferris and Velin's torches burnt out because I was tracking them in the time tracker. I don't need to show you that. But the third offer, again, they had a 24% chance. They rolled a 92. So the parties are unable to agree on the terms. The slaves decide to take their chances with an unaided escape, and they took they're going to be taking their promised 30 gold piece share. They're already carrying 9 gold pieces worth of treasure between them. So that's these values here. So when I found the treasure, when I came across these slaves with the treasure, I recorded everything in this table, this treasure found table, and that's what the slaves were carrying. Here's the encumbrance scores, and I've just added a column in here since last time I used this table, just to kind of put in who has what. So what was agreed was the party makes up their share with the treasure in the cart. A further 6 gold pieces worth of damaged gems, 600 copper pieces, and 9 gold pieces. This leaves the party with 646 copper pieces and 3 gold pieces. They've come out of this negotiation pretty poorly, but on the bright side, they have much less weight to carry now. So as it stands, the party have, I'm gonna zoom in on here again. Need to make sure I'm zooming. So the party have, they're carrying this. This is the treasure they've recovered, which is about 9 or 10 gold pieces worth. And the slaves came out of the negotiation with all of this, which is much more difficult to carry, but in the long run, they'll come out with quite a lot more. So that's where I am at the moment in my campaign. And I've just put a note to myself here that I'm going to be handling a conversation between Canis and his cousin as well, because that's something that I haven't role played out. So I'm going to be role playing that conversation out and using my rules to do that. So that is something I may cover in another video. But what I'm going to do with these videos is, so basically I'm spending time playing through this B1 campaign, and I've decided to, bring my YouTube viewers in on this, and so they've got some kind of, I guess, behind the scenes stuff, showing how I kind of write these recap videos, these solo D&D narrated videos that I do. This kind of gives you an insight into what goes on behind the scenes, and you'll probably notice that it's quite a slow process. I mean, it's slowed down a lot when I'm looking into areas that I don't have many rules for, and I'm developing this rule set. So it's not always like that. Quite often the action flows a lot more, but I really prefer this kind of slow, methodical approach. I feel like I come away really satisfied that the situation has been handled with respect for the rules and logic. I just think being methodical makes it feel like the story is emerging from something that is robust. It's almost like, it couldn't really go any other way. So I'm surprised by what's happening, but I don't have as much influence as I might have if I'm just kind of making very quick rulings, because if you're doing that, I feel like you're being more biased and you're throwing more metagame into it. So I think being more methodical really does make a big difference in the kind of integrity that you get out of your game, if that makes sense. But anyway, so so what I'm doing with these videos is I'm just going to hit the record button here and there. So I'll be giving you kind of snippets, talking through kind of what's been going on in the game. And there'll be bits where I'm kind of generating the story, while recording. I'll be writing rules while recording, but there'll be times when I'll be playing and I won't be recording. Like all this that's happened since the last session, I played that out and I'm here on the mic explaining it. So yeah, so I feel like you probably get a sense of what's going on, and there'll be a sense of continuity. But these videos are mainly about um, kind of showing my approach, and then just like showing kind of the mindset that I go into these games with, and giving examples of how I apply my rules. And then, watching it, you might get some value from that, because you might think, well, actually, I might use that in my own game. So, feel free to do that. Feel free to use any of this in your game if you want to do so. Um, so yeah. I'm gonna leave it there for now, and I'll say that that's the session for now. And I will see you. Well, I will speak to you again soon. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found value in this, and I will see you in another session in the future. Good night.